Okay, hello everybody. We are live. Hello and welcome again to the Animatron's weekly webinar. We are back here again after a few weeks of going over a little bit about animation. And one of the things I wanted to hone in on for this topic today should kind of sum up everything that goes along with animation and audio and the things that we've covered in the past is publishing, exporting, importing, downloading, and uploading certain things inside of your Animatron projects. So that's what we're going to be covering today. If you are brand new to Animatron, before we get this thing started, I want you to know that there's a small link, a hyperlink in the description area below this stream. Make sure that you expand the description area. It should say show me more if you can't see the hyperlink immediately. Click on that hyperlink. It'll take you to our YouTube channel's playlist of official Animatron tutorials. You can watch through this and get a grasp for all of the basics, like our interface, certain tools, certain functions, the terminology involved with all of it. And I definitely highly suggest watching that if you are new to Animatron. And then to follow up with our topic, for those of you who have topic-related questions along the way, I ask that you please go ahead and ask those in chat as we go through with our demo. So anything pertaining to publishing or exporting, importing, downloading, or uploading files or objects into the Animatron editor, I ask that you keep those that you ask those questions in chat. I'll try to answer those as best as I can along the way. And for any of you guys with off-topic questions, anything not related directly to publishing and exporting and so on and so forth, please hold those off until the end. We have our question and answer session at the very end of the demo. So you can ask anything that you have at the top of your, at the tip of your tongue that you're just waiting to get answered. So keep those questions until the end. And then with that, we can just run right into it. So let me screen share here. And you guys should be able to see my screen. I already have my Animatron project open in the editor. So if you guys remember from last week, we covered a bit about looping animations and animation looping. So I brought back that small example of the background that we had and the animated bees. So to give you a better example of what we're working with in this project, I'll zoom into the project a bit so you can see what's going on. And I'll just hit enter so we can play through. We've got our, our animated bees hanging on the tree in the background. And we have our vampire Animatron hero. He's all ready for the Halloween season, bouncing up and down here on the left. So with this animation, what I wanted to go over first of all was downloading and uploading animation files, or actually downloading your project file. So a lot of people don't seem to understand that they can download the exact file of this project directly to your computer, and you can actually carry it around with you on your portable drives. You can keep it on your personal computer at home, and then always come back into Animatron later and upload that exact A&M file. So I'll show you a good example of how this works right now. You click on the main menu button up at the top left, and most of the things that you can do with your project can be handled under the main menu. And you just go down to this project tab here. It's the one at the very top of our main menu. And if you look down the list, you'll see at the very bottom here something that not a lot of people really understand what this means. So the first one that I want to cover is actually downloading the file itself. So if you have a version of this project that you plan on sharing with other people at some point after after you've been working on it for some time, and you're unsure that any changes or corrections or edits that you make afterwards will be saved. You basically use download as A&M file, and you see it highlighted right here in my cursor. If you need to save an iteration or a version of this project, like in Photoshop or any of these other software suites, you have to save. You have to constantly save the program. In Animatron, because it is a web application, it's open inside of your browser, it saves automatically for you. So every move that you make in the editor is saved up to date. But the one thing that it doesn't grant you is that history of versions of your project. So a lot of animators like to keep previous versions of their project in case you ever have to go back and make some edits at a prior time. So this is the perfect use for downloading your A&M files. So let's say at this point in time, I've worked on this project. I want to keep everything here, but I have a lot of plans to add more animated elements to this scene, or add more scenes, or just do anything else with the project. But I want to make sure that I have this version of it so that I can recall it later in case I add something that maybe my production manager didn't like if you're working in a professional environment. So people who are making the ultimate decision on your project, you'd be able to go back and recall this project. So essentially, I'm just going to click on download as A&M file. And for you people that don't understand the file extensions, .anm means animation, or Animatron's proprietary file extension. So this will only download an A&M file, and it can only be uploaded to the Animatron editor. So if anybody asks you what an A&M file is, it's only openable inside of the Animatron editor itself. So I'll click on download A&M, and you'll see down here at the bottom, Google Chrome is automatically downloading this for me and placing it in my downloads folder. So one thing you can do, let me minimize my screen here just to show you what this is actually doing. So one thing you can do with this download is, if it went to a folder, you don't know where to find it, you can always click on this down arrow and you can show it in the folder. And generally it goes to your default downloads folder. Or you can simply left click and drag to your desktop, and it will create a file with the same naming convention of the name of your project. So you'll see the name of my A&M file here is importing and publishing example.anm. And the name of my project, I'll maximize this, name of my project is importing and publishing example. So this is the best way to notice which A&M file belongs to which project. And it doesn't add an extension for you. So it's a good habit to get into adding numeric extensions. So if you're saving multiple versions of this, you can just click on the name. And what I'll do is, because everything saves with an underscore for the spacing between the words. And what I mean by that is the title of my project, importing and publishing example, has spaces between the words. But when it's saved to a file to your computer, it saves those spaces as underscores. So this is just a great way to understand how the computer interprets your naming convention for your saved files. So importing underscore and underscore publishing example underscore, and I'm just going to add a 01 at the end. So there's an example, there's an explanation for why I choose to add a 01 instead of just saying 1. And that is frame buffering. So it doesn't really, it's not really necessary to add that, but if you were to save, let's say, 100 versions of this project throughout your overall project, or throughout the entire pipeline of your project, and you need to access them in some sort of numerical order, it's easier just to have this 01. So let's say I have 99 projects. 01 will stay at the top of the list, and 99 will be at the very, very bottom of the list. So that's a frame buffer for you guys who like to keep your naming conventions solid and are able to access those in sequence later. That's just a habitual thing that I have grown to use over the years. It just makes it easier to access everything when you need it at some later point in time. So that is downloading the A&M file. So I'll maximize my browser here again. And what I'll do is I'll give you an example of now that I've downloaded the A&M file, I can make changes to the same current project, so I can keep going here. So let's say at frame 0, my bouncing vampire hero starts from the left side of the screen, and at the 6-second mark, he disappears off to the right side of the screen. Oh, I gotta turn my animation toggle switch on. So here, up at the very top, what I was trying to do is keyframe my character moving from the left to the right. So before I do that, I need to make sure animation mode is on. So again, another habit you should get into is before you start keyframing, make sure that animation mode is on. So this is my starting point at the 0-second mark. You can see that at my playhead. I've moved him into position where I want him to start out. Here, let's put him closer into view. And then I'll scrub my playhead down to the end of my animation, which happens to be at the 6-second mark. And I'll just click and drag him to the end. And let's just put him off of the screen there. So now I have a keyframe at 0 seconds. Right? And then I have a keyframe at 6 seconds. And my animatron hero is already animated inside of its movie clip, inside of the group layer itself. So I can see the keyframes looping here when I click inside of the character. So just to give you an example of what's going on here, I want to make some changes. I've added a keyframe. There's some animation. If I wanted to make, let's say, some custom motion path edits, I can go in here and add some nodes and change the trajectory of how he gets from the left side to the right side. And I'm just doing this for the effect of showing you what the reason for downloading your A&M file is. So obviously he's not exactly adhering to any sort of realistic physics at this point. So now that we've made our edits on the motion path of our character, we've added all of this work, and we don't have a way to get back to where we had the character just bouncing up and down in the middle. So the quickest way for me to access that would be to go back up to the main menu at the top left, click on it. Again, go to your project submenu at the top here, and just go to upload from A&M file. So if I ever wanted to get back an old version of my project, I could essentially click and drag my file. Here, let me see if I can minimize this for you so you see what's going on. As another point to make while you're resizing your windows, so if anything else pops up or anything is an overlay to the editor itself, like this drag and drop window here for selecting the file that I want to upload, you can always reload or refresh your browser, and the editor will reset the scale of all of the interface items. So it'll be easier for you to understand what's going on in the context of uploading the file directly. So again, click on your main menu, go to the project tab at the top, and click on upload from A&M, and you'll see my drag and drop file has, or my drag and drop overlay has centered itself with the browser. And here's the file that I was trying to bring in. So this is my previous save file, my previous A&M file that I saved. So I'll just drag and drop that in. You'll see it's uploading. Once it's done uploading, I'll maximize my browser so we can, again, see what's going on. And we see that now when I scrub through my playhead, none of that animation, that custom animation that I've added after the fact, has stuck to this version of the project. And you can see up at the very top, it's still named the same exact thing, importing and publishing example. But what you'll take from uploading files is that it is generating a brand new project to your library. So if you wanted to directly access the one that you had before, which was the one you've been working on for quite some time, you can click on the main menu again. And this is a very handy way of looking at our previous projects list here at the very bottom. So they're numbered from 1 through 5, 5 being the latest project that you've had open, and 1 being the last project that you've had open since this current one. So the last one I had open was importing and publishing animation. Importing and publishing example. And if I click on that, here I have the same file that I had before I uploaded my older version. So if you ever need to recall, go through the history of the different versions of your project, you can always just go up to the main menu and look at what you've had in your previous projects list down here at the bottom. Or you can go to Project up at the top of the main menu subfolder. Sorry, the submenu under Project, and you can click on Open Project. And what this does is it gives you a sample gallery of all of the previous projects that you've worked on and that you can recall immediately. So by simply looking at each one of these previews, you can decide to either delete or open the projects. Hover over their name tags, you can see the exact name of them. And here's another conundrum about saving your files in with that numeric frame buffer at the very end of them. So you want to know what order that they were saving in. Otherwise, I'm not really sure just by looking at these previews which iteration or which version of that project that I downloaded is the right one that I want to access. So just for matter of habit, you go into your project options or your project parameters up here at the very top. And so let's say I had my marketplace open. All you have to do is click on the title of your project. Just click right there. And it shows you the name and the size of the canvas, the background color of the canvas. So I can change this title, right? So I'll just change this to example 1, or right in our case, we want 01 because we honestly don't know how many versions I'm going to be saving in the future, and just hit enter. And you see it changed the title to 01. So that now when I go back into my project gallery to try to open a past project, now it says the title is 01. So this is the version that I want to access. And then the one prior to that obviously should have been 01, and this one should be 02. So in the order of things that you're saving your files, that's kind of a habit that you want to get yourself into. You know you're going to have multiple versions. Sometimes if you're happy where you're at the end of your project, you're happy with the project, you want to keep publishing in different file formats, you can always change the title of the project to, let's say, final or HTML5, whatever file format you want to eventually publish as. So that's downloading and uploading project A&M files. And again, just to reiterate on this, it's a great way to make sure that you're saving previous versions of your project. So to skim by that, let's move on to downloading particular components of your project. So a lot of people have a little bit of confusion about what it means to export to HTML5 or to download HTML5. The real difference is in our Animatron editor, Publishing is exporting. Publishing is the result of getting the end product that you want. The only difference between downloading the HTML5 and publishing it is that the published version is hosted. The actual end resulting HTML5 clip, the video clip itself, is hosted from our Animatron servers. So you're essentially grabbing a URL, like let's say this web URL is our clip, or in better sense, what I'll do is I'll click on my publish button up here, and this clip right here. So you'll see the web URL that it's sending you to, and when I open it, it's giving you a previewer. So this is Animatron's custom previewer of the HTML5 project, or the end resulting movie clip, inside of Animatron's hosted preview window, or I should say player. And then the one thing you want to get from this is that anytime that you want to embed this or upload this to your own website, you're embedding the web URL itself. You're actually telling your website to go look for this web URL, source it, and put it into your website, like let's say a WordPress blog. It would be looking for this clip. So if this clip were to disappear, or your project were to, if you were to change your project and this file extension for the clip had changed, odds are that this clip itself may break. This exact extension may break down the road. So let's say a month from now, you've made some edits to this, and this clip is no longer the same, or it's just no longer hosted from our server because you don't have an account with us anymore. This will disappear. So the other option is actually to download the HTML5 code. So what I mean by that is when you download the code itself, and just to show you where it's located, click on this main menu button again, and also under the project tab, and you'll see here it's the fourth option down is download HTML5 code. So in order to be able to download it, first of all, you need to have a pro account with us. A pro subscription will unlock this feature. And downloading the HTML5 code means that you can place this code anywhere inside of your site, whatever site that you're currently working on, and it will source that code from your own server. So it doesn't matter what happens with Animatron. If our servers are down, if something is interrupting that web link from being accessed, it will at least be sourced from your own server, your own website or computer. So for those of you web developers out there that want to make sure that that link will never be broken, that's what download HTML5 code is for. And then because it is the code element, it is the HTML5 code element, you can change anything in the coding directly. So if you're a coding wizard, you can go in here, change any of these HTML5 elements, and all of what you see in your project is applied to the code. And that's all it is. It's just a long string of code that provides you with all of the visual elements that you see inside of this, inside of the Animatron editor. Everything animated how it's supposed to be, everything previewed and the same color, the same actions. So it becomes yours. You get to sculpt it or mold it on your server personally. So you can always change it on your end. So the difference, again, download HTML5 code, again, with pro subscription only. And the difference between that and publishing the HTML5 code is that it depends where the actual movie clip, the end resulting movie clip, is being sourced from. In the publishing case, it's being sourced from Animatron servers. In the download HTML5 code case, it's being sourced from whatever server you want it to be sourced from. So that's a way to extract your project in your own personal use. for your website, ideally. Excuse me. Okay, so that is downloading HTML5 code. I know, really long-winded explanation for it, but those who work with HTML5 will better understand the optimal use for that. Now I can move on to downloading SVG SMIL, SVG SMIL. So again, in the main menu, under the project submenu, and just under downloading HTML5 code is SVG SMIL. So there's only a few web browsers that optimally allow SVG to play, the animation itself to play embedded on certain sites. But certain web browsers are not looking at the SVG SMIL animation as prominently as other options, like HTML5 is capable of being viewed across multiple platforms, like mobile devices, your PC, your Apple computer, all those. So this is something that's just ideal for all of you who want to have that vector animation, and those elements will download the same way as the A&M file. So I can download SVG SMIL. I'll click on that, and it gives you an SVG file extension, and this will open it. And if you click on it, it will open it under its own SVG file. So only a couple of browsers support this fully. So if you were to use that, you'd have a very particular use for SVG. But that is a vector-specific file format. Okay, so aside from downloading your projects, downloading the code, the source code for it, and publishing HTML5, I can show you importing, bringing objects, assets, audio, video, fonts into your project to begin with. So importing can be found, again, under the main menu. Right here in the middle is your import feature. You can click on it here. The shortcut for it is Alt-I. And if you don't want to do it this way, there is a quick little import button at the top right of our editor. So to quickly import your assets, just click on import. You can select from files, or you can drag and drop your files in. And it also gives you this neat little feature to access your web camera. Obviously, you have to give it give Animatron permission to use your web camera in order to take this picture. And then underneath here, you'll see all the supported formats for each individual piece of media. So the top one at the list is images. We support JPEG and PNG images at the moment. Audio is most of the main audio file formats: MP3, WAV, AIFF, M4A, and OGG. SVG, again, you can import your own SVG objects from directly from Illustrator or any other vector-based program. I believe Flash even has an SVG conversion to it also. So if you wanted something to maintain the scale or size of it with the definition of it, you can always use SVG format to be a bit more picky about how big your projects are going to be and how big the objects you're bringing into your file are going to be. And then lastly, fonts. Most, I believe these are the main font formats that are used across the world today. TTF, OTF, and WOFF. Font files can be downloaded from many online websites that you can find pretty much anywhere. Just go to your search engine, type in fonts, and you have a couple of options there. But to know about fonts in Animatron, we source a lot of web fonts automatically. So we have thousands of fonts to choose from by default. So you probably will very rarely use the fonts, but if you're looking for something very specific, you can bring those in as well. So let's import an object here. I'll just bring my folder into view. So I have my folder open already. So right now I can import images. And if you remember from last week's animation webinar, we demoed an impact sequence, which is an image sequence. So just to give you a refresher on how this works, image sequences, again, have to have that number buffer or frame buffer at the very end so they stay in sequence. And if you select the very first and then shift select the very last image in the sequence, you can drag and drop those in, and they will load in. You'll see them uploading, and then you can tell it how long to play per image, so the duration of each image. So since I'm just giving you this as an example of bringing assets into your Animatron project, I'll just hit create and let it do its own thing. And it'll take some time to process. That is 25 frames, and they all dump into the canvas to the full size of the canvas. And then you'll see here as I drag across my timeline that you'll see each one of those individual images into place. And because I imported an image sequence, again, as they import, you'll see them nested into the group layer. And just by revealing them with this little gray triangle, you can see how each image is laid out back to back throughout the entire sequence. So that's a good way, good example of seeing how Animatron imports certain file formats. In this case was a string of JPEG images in an image sequence. So I'll hide that real quick, and then I'll do one more import, and I'll show you audio. Let me get my folder back here. And I'll go to audio, and I'll just add a little boing boing effect. Again, I'm dragging an MP3 file into our project, and just clicking and dragging it from the folder into this little drag and drop area. It will automatically dump it into our layers panel. So you'll see the layers panel at the bottom left here. It's added our MP3. It took a short while to process, but you can see the audio waveform on the time band itself of the audio layer. And if you hit enter, you can get that audio feedback and actually hear how that is being processed, how loud it is, and whatnot. So the difference between audio and images and ultimately video, that's one thing I want to actually tell you guys about at this current point in time. So we're trying to get video updated so that you can import your videos, your own custom videos from your computer. And then ultimately you'll be able to export them as well. So within the next few weeks here, Animatron will be moving in the direction of having a successful primitive video editor. So you guys can compile all of these animated elements over the top of pre-existing video, MP4 video that you choose to bring into Animatron. So there'll be a lot of utility in that as well. And when we get that access, I'll definitely make a point to have a webinar based around video for you guys. So that is importing certain file formats into the Animatron editor. And now I'd like to quickly brush over publishing. So publishing, we already looked at HTML5, but I want to go over the settings of each one of these formats and their utility, how you would use each one. So if you look at the top right, we have this button that says HTML5. If I hover over it, you'll see it says publish. So this is the way that you're going to see what file format it's in. It's currently publishing out to. And if you hover over it, you can see it says publish. So if you ever need to know how to quickly export a viewable version of your project, just click on the button right here. But to change the settings of your HTML5 format, you click on the little cog, this little cog icon to the right, the gear, and you'll see the output type. So output as HTML5. And then there's two little quick checkboxes here. The first one is auto start, which means whenever it loads into your website or whenever it loads into your blog, it will start to play as soon as it's loaded. And then next to that is loop. That just means when the animation is finished playing, it will go back to frame 0 and it will play, or frame 1 in this case, will play through again and again and again endlessly. So we have HTML5. Again, I'll just click on this to show you the publishing dialog that pops up when we click on that publish button. So what you'll notice here is it gives you the example of the title that it's being exported as. So importing and publishing example 1. And it's telling you that it's published at. So again, this web URL is sourced from the Animatron servers, and you can access that and embed this into your own personal websites. And then we have at the very bottom is an embedding code. So if you have a very particular website that works on, let's say, mobile devices or has to be able to expand what's called responsive playback or responsive player, you can use this iframe code at the bottom of our window. And this iframe code basically takes everything from this source URL and places it into an iframe that you can just paste into your own website. And then any iframe code that goes along with it can be edited directly in this code. So if you had anything specific for WordPress, and I always go back to WordPress because this is optimal for it, you can always look up additional iframe conditions that you can change the way that the player functions. So again, iframe code can be selected, copied, and pasted wherever you need it to be. You can copy this and paste it to your friends. You can essentially just put it anywhere you want to. You can send it through an email, and this link is always active. As long as it's been rendered, it's been saved on our servers for your account. And then just to quickly view it, you hit open, and it will open up that same web URL in a brand new tab on your browser. And because we had loop and autoplay on, it's just going to go continuously until we close the tab. And then we have some player features here. Nothing too complicated yet, but the player will be expanded in the near future, so we can play and pause our video and turn on and off our audio. So these features are, the HTML5 features, the publishing features are great because HTML5, again, plays across most platforms, online, mobile, web, and media can be accessed through blogs on PC or Mac, anything. So HTML5 is really the optimal file format for exporting your videos. And it's also a very small file size. Now, where HTML5 is more powerful in the sense of web media or web animations is that it also supports a basic level of interactivity, which means that if you ever wanted to add buttons on characters so that when you hover over them with your mouse, they change color. When you click on something, a separate animation happens. You click on a tree and the leaves fall off. So that level of interactivity is only possible through your HTML5 file format. So none of our others allow that level of complexity. So again, HTML5, our most powerful file format, in my opinion. And if you wanted to do anything specific for some social network media, you can always change your file format. A second format that we have here is GIF, GIF. Sorry to, I hope I don't offend any of you guys that say GIF. GIF or GIF, I'm not really particular on either one. But GIF is essentially in a web-specific, really low file size animation export. So what you need to know about GIF is that it does not export with audio. You can change the frames per second of how many frames you're going to get out of these 6 seconds. And changing your frames per second will dramatically increase your file size. So that's something to take into consideration when you're exporting, or sorry, I should say publishing. When you are publishing your GIF animations, is that the frames per second, the higher frame per second rate that you go, the more or the larger your file size for that animation will be. So be very cautious of that. And then you can choose to loop it or not. Most cases, online media, you have you have looping animated GIFs. So that's, just something I'm used to using all the time. And again, you just click on GIF, and it will give you this little rendering notification here in the center. So it's basically telling you that it is rendering, and then it will give you that GIF file essentially as a download file, like we downloaded our A&M files, our SVG or HTML. So once it's finished, right, we give this little loading bar some time to ultimately finish rendering. And then if you wait till the end where this says finished, I can click on download GIF. And once you have this, once you have the end result here, you can right click on the animation itself, and then you can save image as. So with saving the image, let me source my webinar folder. I'll change this to video. And I will save my GIF image as Animatron Hero Vampire Bounce. Whatever you want the file name to be, and hit save. And you'll see here that now it has downloaded the file as Animatron Hero Vampire Bounce GIF. And if I click on this, you can always access it directly through a web browser, and you can transport that file from any one of your social media networks to wherever you need it to be. So GIF animation, again, no audio. Increased file size with the frames per second. Go back here. All right, so the other option, and I'm not sure if you really can see it because this downloads quite quickly. So while we're waiting for this loading screen, you also have this other button that says close and notify by email when it is finished. So if you didn't want to wait for this loading screen, you want to continue editing, you can click on that button and it will send it to your email address that's attached to your Animatron account while you are continuing to work on your project. So if you had a really big project you were working on, that's very handy to just say, look, I don't want to wait for this loading screen. Let me just get back to work. So you can click on that. You will get an email later on with a file attached to it that you can just download the GIF animation directly. And that case is much better for our third and final format is video. So again, I'll go up to my publish settings here at the top right of the editor, and I'll change my output as video. And then it's important to let you guys know that for video, this is restricted to starter subscription users and pro subscription users. So if you guys want to export MP4 video of your animations that you've produced for starter subscriptions, you'll be able to do our standard definition 4:3 or standard definition 16:9 dimension, ratio. And then for pro users, for pro subscription users, you'll be able to download these videos or animations in high quality, high definition at 720p and 1080p. But also important to know is the time restriction on each. So a starter subscription for your SD files, you'll only be able to export up to 30 seconds of video. And then for your pro users, because we allot you a lot more file size on our server to be able to render more video. We give you up to 10 minutes of HD quality, either 720 or 1080p. So optimally, you guys want to be reaching out for the pro accounts to go ahead and get your pro subscription so that you can export at the 1080p level if you are planning on doing any really large videos in the future. So training videos, funny storyline videos, anything you're really going to be using video for to export. So pro subscription is always the way to go because you get access to all those fun features. Video works the same way. You click on the publish button and it gives you the same loading screen. But because video takes a bit longer to process, you usually will want to choose the close and notify by email button. You just hover over the text here, the blue text, and you click on that. And again, you can go back to working on the same project or working again in the editor without having to wait for this loading process. And again, that's really if you have an animation that takes a long time to process. I only have a 6-second animation rendering out, so this happened pretty quickly. So for you guys with 2 to 5 to 10 minutes of video, this is definitely going to take quite some time. So now that it's finished, I'll click on download video, and again, the video will save out with audio attached to it because it is MP4 format. And your player options are a bit different because of the video format it's in. So you do have a change in audio level. Again, I'll play through here. You can change the audio level. You can maximize and minimize. And you just play and pause. So that's the main difference between all of our publishing formats. So this is something that you guys should probably take into consideration when you're when you're developing your projects is what file format am I ultimately going to be exporting as? If you don't know, a good idea to think about where you're going to be using your animation, specifically for social media. Social media has some very restrictive limitations to requirements to upload to their sites. So Facebook and Twitter have very independent limitations that they ask you to fall within. So, Twitter, nothing over 15 seconds. It has to be under a certain file size. The smaller that your canvas size is. So if you look at my project parameters here on the left, the canvas size matters when considering the file export. And then if you're exporting to video, the HD quality or the SD quality actually matters to the file size as well. So always take those into consideration. You change your canvas size, you change your HD or SD settings to see what you can come up with the best for specific social media needs. And then you can export that way. But if you wanted to save all this information and just keep on creating more and more projects without having to download A&M files to your own computer, the last thing you can do is go to the main menu, click on the project submenu here, and just duplicate the project. This will save this current version of the project, and then duplicating, you'll see the title of my new duplicated project has the word copy at the tail end of it. So this just gives you an idea that this is now a duplicated version of example 1. So in the term of saving this as a new iteration of my project, I'll just remove copy, and I'll change it from 01 to 02, enter. And now if you see in my previous projects, it's better seen through my open project gallery here. Now I have importing and publishing example 2 and 1, and then obviously the 2 before I saved out the these other 2 with the numeric values. So that's really the ins and outs of bringing assets into your project, importing assets, downloading HTML5 code, downloading your SVGs, downloading and uploading the particular editor files themselves, the file formats themselves, and then publishing in our 3 native formats, HTML5, GIF, and video, and with their limitations. And then I don't want to skim over this because a lot of people like to grab snapshots or screen grabs of their projects so that they can make quick little pictures of them. So if you want to send pictures or post pictures on social media, you can just find a nice spot. Just notice here I'm scrubbing through, let me make this canvas bigger for you to see. I'm just scrubbing through my playhead. I'm scrubbing my playhead through my timeline. And I'm finding a location, part of the animation where I can see a good, get a good thumbnail so that I can upload that to my social media network. So let's say right here, I'm happy with this image that I see. Now, as it stands, Animatron doesn't have a button or a publishing dialog for you to just export a single image. But what we do have is a shortcut key. So if you guys are interested in taking snapshots of your canvas, that means everything inside of the canvas area, you can use our shortcut key. On the PC is Control M. So I'll hit Control M because I'm using a PC. And you'll see it will download a PNG for you, a PNG image file. And if you look at the name extension, importing and publishing example 2, and it gives you the dimensions of the screen. So this PNG file is saved out as 640 by 360 pixels. So you can always change the name of this image. But if you want to quickly grab a snapshot of your canvas at any point, again, on PC is Control M, and on Mac computers the shortcut is Command M. So PC, Control M, on Mac or MacBooks, Command M is what you're going to be using to grab those instant snapshots of the canvas, everything inside of the canvas area. And that pretty much wraps up my little demo for today. So what we'll do is we'll move over into our live Q&A session. If you guys have any questions for me, please type those into chat now, and I'll answer those as best I can. So while I'm waiting to get these questions in here, I'd just like to say to continue our webinars, to get more topics that you guys are interested in, I ask that you send that information, send those suggestions for the next topic of our weekly Animatron webinars into feedback@animatron.com. Here I have it up on the screen for you. And basically, send us an email at feedback@animatron.com with the subject header that says something like webinar suggestion, webinar topic suggestion, and then just let me know in the body of the email what you are currently working on, what you're trying to achieve, and I'll try to custom tailor next week's Animatron webinar to those needs if we have an overwhelming group of emails based around that essential need. So I'll custom make our next webinar to basically give you some results on that end. And then, as always, please like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and sign up for your free Animatron account while you can. If you already have it, please keep using our editor. It's free until you decide to use any of these spectacular publishing or downloading features, bringing video in and exporting video. Like I said, that's coming down the pipe, but it's going to be around the corner for you guys. So look forward to that. And then one last thing before I go here, I want to just show you guys that if you go to our blog, so you can just type in blog.animatron.com, we are hosting our very first animated holiday postcard contest for Halloween. So go to our blog, check out our cute little animation here. Get all the details on what you need to do to enter, but the deadline for the postcard entry is 12 a.m. midnight Eastern time on October 23rd. So go ahead, take a quick read through this blog, get more information on what you can create in Animatron for us, and your postcards will be highlighted, will be showcased on our website, and you will also get some cool little handy grab bag rewards once you've submitted those and we've decided on them before the Halloween holiday hits us at the end of the month. So thanks again for coming in and sticking with me throughout this demo, and I will see you next week, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Again, I am Bryce, your Animatron guru. Have a good day, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.